Okay, first of all, I'm a little mad. I'm going to be fully honest with you. They showed a teaser of Aaron and Reiner meeting as their teaser or preview for this episode, and apparently that was just a teaser of a teaser. Hello, listeners, and welcome to A Dash of Salt with AJ. I'm your host, Ahsoka Jackson, author, podcaster, poet, and proofreader. Oh man. Okay. I had questions about the pacing, okay? I wasn't sure how much they would show, and whether things would end up being or feeling rushed when it came to Aaron and Reiner's encounter if they tried to pack too much into this episode. And that is a scene that simply cannot be rushed. One simply does not, okay? So at least they didn't do that. But I really thought we were going to get the full conversation and then stop at a really dramatic moment right before things get kicked up another notch, right? I was thinking there'd be a confrontation shown, and then they'd stop right when action was about to begin, or like right as it was beginning. Nope. Nah, they just have Aaron sitting there, chilling, honestly looking like he's about to kick Reiner's butt, which... See, I'm so conflicted, and this is exactly what the author wanted, I know. It's kind of hard to bear a lot of ill will towards Reiner right now, all things considered. Especially after I saw him making that MVP play earlier. I am about 85% to 95% positive that he was deliberately confusing the guy during that strategy session. That reminds me of that quote from Mr. Banks and Mary Poppins. Kindly do not attempt to cloud the situation with facts. That guy was running off his mouth about dumb Eldians and didn't even realize he was being played. That was smooth, Reiner. That was good, man. Glad to see our shattered soldier using his manipulation tactics for good. I mean, technically he was just being thorough, right? But yeah, it was great to see him basically try to do a little bit to protect Paradis by, interfering with their attempts to plan their latest invasion of it. But then he walks downstairs. We have a history with basement-type places, right? And I had actually thought Aaron was going to show up in Reiner's actual quarters, but I don't think that's where it is now. It almost seems like it's part of maybe some kind of substructure connected to where they're having a big speech and all. Like, maybe it's the underground portion of the, whatchamacallit, amphitheater, I think they said. Or it's just located nearby. But whatever the case, Reiner goes down there and, man, I'm going to have to rewatch that a few more times. Aaron still just got that look of just death in his eyes. I feel like that level of terror/horror for Reiner has to be akin to seeing a person or animal you thought you'd killed and buried years ago, and you just walk into a room and they're there, arms folded, waiting for you. And poor Falco, I'm just gonna have to wait until next episode to get into that, because I definitely want to see the kids' reactions myself. I've seen a little bit, which already broke my heart a little, but I know later we're gonna really get into that. But man, with his kind little soul, Falco just helped easily the single most dangerous man going up against Marley to find his quarry here. Oof. Now, this is totally different from my theory of how Aaron would find Reiner, but as I said before, I'm totally good with that. In any case, though, it's hard to even describe how intense this is going to be, right? And I just freaking realized something as I was writing my script for this episode. Aaron's first words to Reiner here are almost identical to what he said at the beginning of that first battle in Trust District, the first fight Aaron and his team went into after they had completed training. And that was such an incredible and perfect moment, not only because of the whole surprise attack, which is perfectly executed in not only the anime but also the manga. I read the manga for that section after having first watched it in the anime, and it still caught me so off guard. The way that key visual came up with the colossal titan looming over the team. And it wasn't just perfect because of that. What completed the perfection of that moment was Aaron's response to it. The physical choreography was a really nice part of that, by the way. But what I'm mainly thinking of is his dialogue there. I feel like there's so much in his response there that I haven't even fully comprehended, as far as what it really shows us about Aaron's mindset and his heart. Like, it's hard to even pin down exactly. But the way he responded to him, that line, "Yo, it's been 5 years." And both his words and his tone and delivery there, the sheer absence of fear. And he was definitely angry, but it was that quiet, murderous rage before the storm of it. And he responded to that, to the Titan He answered him the way you answer someone when they're the ones in danger, when they're the ones who need to be afraid. And as a side note, it continues to impress me how he took charge in that scene. Eren is not someone who particularly seeks rank or leadership for its own sake, but he steps the freak up when he's needed. Like, everyone else is pretty much frozen, but he put them to work. It reminds me of General Manga, something I have to say about him later for this episode. But anyway, there's something so impressive in a fun, cool sense, but also something profound here about Eren's verbal response and what you feel from it. For me, at least. One thing I feel I've come to understand about Eren is that he has a very interesting relationship with death. It's fascinating, and it's something I really hope to gain more insight into in this season, along with just generally delving into his seriously complicated, mysterious mind and soul as a whole. This game's like a microcosm of the whole show. You know that phrase about a mystery wrapped within an enigma? But I think one thing I do understand now is that Eren has a startling lack of fear when it comes to death. He actually has this problem, arguably, of a lack of healthy fear. The thing that for some folks would scare them the most, one's own death, seems to hold very little visceral fear for him. His death is a problem to him simply because it would keep him from accomplishing his goals. But it's like if he feels that his own death is actually the best solution to achieving those goals, he could probably give it up in a very matter-of-fact way. Like, matter-of-fact to the point of being startling. He was really emotional in that one scene with Historia, but that was really because of the larger context and these discoveries about what his father had done, and then what he had subsequently done himself after his father injected him, no doubt. And mainly the larger context of how Eren now thought that his father's actions and his own unknowing continuation of that path were the causes of the various hells they'd been suffering for the past 5 years. But he very actively wanted to die in that scene. And I don't think he was really upset at the prospect of that itself. And then what we see in his calmer, more stable moments helps confirm that it wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing or a fluke regarding his mindset. The deaths of his family, his friends, his comrades, his people, those are the things that scare Eren when it comes to death. But his own life and mortality are jointly something he can contemplate with this striking sort of steely serenity. I think that's a good way to express both that and other aspects of his personality and mentality. I'm not saying that he typically wants to die or that he never experiences fear. Heck, we saw true fear in his eyes when he had to spar with Annie. But he, in large part, has this fascinating attachment where it's like he can observe his own life as a chess piece on the board, and he's willing to sacrifice it if he gets the win. And wrapped up in that would be this insane drive that he has. And coupled with that is his anger, his rage, his grief. Actually, that's another thing talked about in the lyrics. Sort of as a question in some ways. Anger, hatred, grief. What motivates him? And I think the songs sort of note the way all of those things blend together and become somewhat indistinguishable or indistinct in the outcome. I guess because the end results are the same. Alright fam, thanks for listening to today, and I hope you had fun. This might be the final podcast episode I get out in 2020, not sure yet. But we definitely have more coverage ahead for this Attack on Titan episode. We've got that pretty stunning encounter between Mr. Jaeger and our young Mr. Kruger, the grappling and intrigue going on with the General and the Tiber family, and of course how we finally got what we expected of Peak. By the way, as some of you may already know, the show itself will be taking a 1-week break for the new year. I've heard it should be returning on January 10th or so. So we're essentially waiting about 2 weeks until the next episode instead of the usual 1 week in between episodes. I'm already thinking about what I'll be up to during that break, though. But in the meantime, if you're enjoying the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe and turn your notifications on so you get updates. Plus, you can help make the podcast more visible for new listeners by leaving a like, share, or review on whichever platform you use to listen. Be blessed and stay salty.